Three friends boarded Disney's Galactic Starcruiser to seek their destiny and emerged as heroes of the Halcyon.
Bright Suns, Starcruiser superfans, and welcome to Heroes of the Halcyon, the best, and to the best of our knowledge, only Galactic Starcruiser superfan podcast on the webs. I'm Galactic Starcruiser superfan Martin, and with me, as always, are
Superfan Christine
and Superfan Drew.
Well, Jay, we've got a completely different kind of show for everyone today. Drew, can you tell us about it?
I can. So I'm an old-time podcast listener. I listen to a lot of podcasts. And one of my favorite podcasts is The Incomparable, which is a podcast on the Jason Snell podcast network of shows. And on The Incomparable, one of their frequent things that they do is a draft. And I think today it's time for us to have a draft of characters and then compete amongst ourselves with our listeners and see who comes up with the best group of characters from the limited pool that we have available.
Well, this sounds like a lot of fun, but I guarantee there's going to be some broken hearts along the way.
Yes, but luckily we're recording from separate facilities because we knew that we'd be throwing elbows in this. So since we're in different rooms and different places even, we won't quite be able to hit each other so well.
Very smart. Very smart.
I think we also want to give a shout out to a recent award, so why don't we talk about that starting now?
Well, we want to start this week's show out by giving a huge shout out and congratulations to the entire Galactic Starcruiser team. They won a fantastic award this past week at the IAAPA Expo in Orlando. That's the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. They hold this expo every single year, and the Galactic Starcruiser won the award for Best Brand Experience. And this isn't just anywhere, this is the entire world. This year, the best brand experience across all amusement parks and attractions was awarded to Star Wars Galactic Starcruiser in Walt Disney World.
Well earned. I mean, that's absolutely saying a huge amount. I know IAAPA is considered obviously the gold standard in the industry, and for them to get this recognition is pretty amazing.
Yeah, congratulations to everybody who worked on putting the Starcruiser out there and everybody that works on the Halcyon every day.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's nice to see all of the super fans for this experience aren't just here, listening to this podcast. They're everywhere across the world. And it's nice to see them get the recognition that we know that they deserve. I mean, this is truly a world-class experience, and they deserve to get that recognition. So fantastic job to that entire crew.
So for the main part of the show, we're going to do something again that was popularized significantly on a number of podcasts. The one again that I like the most is the Incomparable podcast, which is just an amazingly good pop culture, science fiction, and fantasy themed kind of podcast that's run by Jason Snell. Well, one of the things that they do frequently is they'll do drafts. And you might say to yourself, come on, Self, there's no way that Martin, Christine, and Drew can make an entertaining show about drafting Starcruiser characters.
Yes, we can.
Well, perhaps you're right about that, but we're going to try anyway. So let me tell you a little bit about how these drafts work. What we did is we took the characters on the Starcruiser, and some of them are a little less tenuous than others. We'll cover that in a bit. And we separated out, and we came up with 9 characters that are involved on the Starcruiser experience. Then what we're going to do is we're going to decide who has the first pick, and what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're going to pick the characters one after the other. We're going to do what's called a snake draft for some of you fantasy football enthusiasts out there. The first person will get their first pick, the second person will get the second, the third person's going to get the third and the fourth pick, then we'll go back to the second and then back to the first. So in that way, we'll just go back and forth until we have all the characters drafted. What's going to happen is we're each going to have 3 characters in our team of characters. Then following that, what we're going to do is we're going to promote why we think our particular team of 3 characters is the best. The best of the 3 teams that we've assembled for our draft. Martin, Christine, are you pretty clear on the rules?
Clear as mud.
Nice. Well, so I'm curious, do you guys know who you would draft first? Have you been thinking about kind of how you want to lay out your teams?
I know exactly which way I hope it's going to go, but I know that my choices are going to go radically askew once you both start picking as well. Yeah. So why don't we just say Wraith is going to go number 1?
Well, we'll see. I think that depends on a number of factors, but that's what's fun about these drafts is, if Christine is second and I'm first, well, I know Christine's going to pick Wraith, or I'm pretty sure she is. But just like the Sicilian says, I cannot drink from the glass in front of you because you might drink, well, you know where I'm going with all this. So I think it'll be fun in any case. Well, cool. What I have here in front of me, you guys are going to have to trust me since we're in different locations, but I know you do trust me. I've got three 20-sided dice here, and I have a nice multicolored sparkly die, which I think belongs to you, Christine. I have a black die that's as evil as the heart that you have, Martin. So that one is yours, and I'll be white on the side of the resistance, the rebellion, and all that is good with Star Wars. And I'm going to roll these. And the highest is going to be the first, second highest will be the second, and the third highest will be the third. Sound good, guys?
So
Natural
we're rolling
20.
to see we're going to roll to see who gets Wraith Cole.
Nice. Well, we'll see. Here we go. I'm rolling the dice. All right.
Natural 20. Come on.
Here we go.
Come
on.
I don't care if I get an unnatural 20.
So I have to say this is amusing. And again, you guys know that you trust me. The white die got 19. The sparkly die got 15. And the black die got number 1.
Well, I am number 1. There you go. Wow.
Well, so the fun part, Martin, is you'll get 2 immediate back-to-back picks. So that's actually something that's pretty cool compared to the rest.
I thought we were playing golf rules where the lowest score wins.
Nice. I love it. Well, you know what? Since I got the first, I'm going to go ahead and type here. So if you guys hear typing, my apologies. But we'll keep track of this so that we can discuss this later.
Drew, before we pick anybody, what is the purpose of our team?
Good question.
Is our team going to help us on the Halcyon? Is the team going to help us in a zombie apocalypse? What are we doing with our team?
The zombie. I hadn't considered the zombie apocalypse, but now that you mention it, this sounds pretty good. Well, I think the purpose once we have our team of 3 selected, then I think what we'll do is we'll just discuss. We'll just go back to back and we'll explain. Hey, listeners out there. This is why my team is the best. And then we'll put up a fan survey on Instagram so people can vote and we can see who won the draft. How does that sound?
All right. Sounds good.
Well, I've got the first pick. And again, I know that was awfully convenient, but again, I know you guys can trust me. And I'm just going to start things off in the first round by also picking one Mr. Wraith Cole.
And that's exactly what a scoundrel would say.
Exactly. And let me tell you why I'll tell you that I would pick Wraith Cole. And again, we're going to try to keep spoilers out of this. We like our listeners who haven't gone on the Starcruiser to listen. So if we have a spoiler section, we'll warn you at the end. But for now, it's not going to be any spoilers. We'll talk about things without going into the specifics. But what I will say is, having gone on 2 voyages and seen 2 Wraith actors in action, both amazing and incredible, as we've discussed many, many times in the past, I think the character of Wraith has a built-in advantage to some of the other characters on the ship because, number 1, the type of missions that Wraith and his team kind of partake in, and number 2, the character himself, not just the actor playing that character, but the character himself is a scoundrel, and scoundrels by necessity are charming and delightful, and we're predisposed to like them. So I think that's the reason I'm going with Wraith as number 1. What do you guys think?
100%. What he said.
Christine?
No comment.
Oh, she is mad. Oh, boy, look at that. Oh, she's not happy right now.
That's great. Well, with that, Christine, you have the number 2 selection in our character draft. Who are you choosing with your first pick?
I think with my first pick, I'm going to go with Sammy.
An excellent selection. He was, and again, I'll tell you what, he would be my first pick, but I took Wraith because I knew you would.
Because you like it when I'm angry? Good choice.
Nice.
Good job, Drew.
Well, why did you pick Sammy?
I chose Sammy because Sammy is way, way smarter than he lets on. This whole facade of him being a little bumbling, being a little skittish, that's really just a facade of protection. I think that there's somebody extremely smart, very creative, on his toes, and putting his heart into what he's doing. I mean, we know where his heart lies, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that people are protected.
And I agree. He does seem to have a bumbling, but I'll tell you what. I think the bumbling is part of who he is. I think he's a little unsure that he's might be in over his head. So I don't know that it's a facade. What do you think, Martin?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Sammy kind of has this persona, the aw shucks persona, which we love. Oh my God, he's so endearing. We love following him around on these missions. But I think it would be kind of interesting if that was kind of again, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but if that was there for a reason. Again, I love it. I love the performance so much, and it would be so interesting to see.
Yeah. So I'm number one, it's going to be, as we talked about with our first voyage in Wraith, it will be very difficult if on voyage number 3 I see a different Sammy actor, and I'll have to recalibrate for that performance. And frankly, I haven't watched a lot of YouTube videos to see some of the performances of the other actors. But yeah, for me, I think Sammy is somebody who's unsure of himself, and I don't know how much of that's put on or what. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see other performances.
I think you're selling him short, and that's how he wins.
See, it's hard to talk about Sammy without getting into spoiler territory.
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I like I do like that they're purposefully vague about some of these things. You walk off the ship not knowing certain aspects of things. And I do like the fact that it's open to people's interpretation. I mean, everyone's right and nobody's wrong, and I kind of dig that.
Well, speaking of nobody's right, let's go with your number 1 and your number 2 picks in a row, Martin. Why don't you tell us who your first pick is?
I am going to go. This is going to be kind of interesting. Here is of the available characters. We just to kind of throw a little tidbit out for the listeners. The droids in the story, the SK620 and D309 are not eligible. We're only talking about the characters that you can actually interact with on the missions or on the actual ship in a physical, form. I'm going to go with my very first choice here is going to be, oh boy, I'm going to have to sleep in a different room for this, but I'm going to go Gaia.
Nice. That's not how I thought you were going to go. That's pretty interesting. I'm really curious if you're going to pick who I thought you were going to pick for your first with your second pick, but why did you choose Gaia, Martin?
She's just such a powerful presence. She walks into a room and she commands attention and respect. Being a galactic superstar like Gaia is would really be useful in a huge number of different scenarios. So depending on how we're judging our lineup, I think having a galactic superstar would never hurt. And boy, Christine is filing for divorce as we speak.
She's also turning in a unique shade of red that I didn't expect, so that was kind of surprising.
No. I'm not concerned about my team.
Excellent. Nice. There's confidence. I love it. Well, Christine, what do you think about Gaia? Obviously, without spoilers and so forth.
I mean, of course, Gaia does have immense strength just in who she is. But on the same time, she's also well known across the galaxy. So if anything that we're talking about at the end involves being covert or, trying to blend into a crowd, good luck. Because she is a presence to be reckoned with.
I actually, as far as Gaia goes, I was surprised at the depth of her character. I actually, she was the highlight of that infamous intro video that was shot a long time ago, and the shot where she first comes on and sings her song in the Sublight Lounge for whatever reason in that infamous marketing video. But I kind of thought she would really just be the dinner entertainment. I did not expect her to be as integral to the experience and the story. She has obviously roles to play in some of the things that you do on board the ship. She also is very well defined. The actress we saw play her, again, much like with Sammy, we had the same actress playing Gaia during our second voyage as our first. She makes Gaia somebody that has a depth that, again, I just wasn't expecting. I don't want to overemphasize it and say it was like a Shakespearean performance or anything, but she's a real person, and I truly wasn't expecting that.
I couldn't agree with that more. I mean, that first, I'll even go further. That the initial promo shots that we saw of, again, her singing in the Sublight Lounge, just out of context, the character seems silly to me.
Okay.
And I was not expecting to really be moved or really attached to this character. And like you said, I didn't expect her to be story important. I thought she was just entertainment. And to see that not only did she have a role, but a really prominent role, and just the performance is stunning. I walked away really, really blown away by Gaia, much more than I knew that I was going to love, Captain Kevin, Wraith Cole. We knew
Right.
that those were going to blow you. Wani, we knew we were going to love Wani, but Gaia, that was kind of a dark horse, character for me that I knew I'd like it, but I didn't realize how much I just love what they did with that character.
Well, and without going to spoilers, Christine, you formed a relationship with Gaia. Can you talk about that at all?
Well, I mean, again, I'm not here to boost Martin's team, but I can tell you that yes, again, we had the same Gaia both trips, and she is. I mean, there are no words for her performance. Your expectation when you get on the ship is, like we've all said, she's the performer for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see her at different parts throughout the 2 days that you're there, and you're like, okay, well, she's definitely a much bigger part of this. And then you get into a room with her where she is center stage, for lack of a better word. And I mean, for me personally, and we've talked about this before, I completely forgot like who I was. Like, she was a Twi'lek and my character was a Twi'lek. I was a Twi'lek. She was talking about Ryloth like it was truly her story. And it's just emoted throughout the entire speech that she gives. And you don't have a choice but to want to join her in what she's there to do. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing.
It's so incredible if they can captivate you to the point where you forget this isn't real.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
I mean, we're all very sensible adults.
Well, reasonably.
Reasonably. I mean, again, I'm surrounded by Star Wars stuff in every wall and every room of the house, but you forget that this isn't real for little flashes. And the fact that they can do that, where they can, I'm not worried about the app when you're talking with these characters. I'm not worried about where I am with the missions. You're just lost in what they're saying. That to me that's the strength of Galactic Starcruiser. The set design is phenomenal. The storylines are great, but those serve the performance of the characters, because the performance of these characters for me is why I'm going to keep coming back and talking about this thing until I die.
Well, that's awesome.
Well, and again, because of Gaia, I now know that when Twi'leks cry, their skin changes color.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, let's recap real quick. So with the first pick of the draft, I chose Wraith Cole, and Christine chose Sammy, and Martin chose Gaia. Martin, who is your second pick?
Of the characters we have left, let's see here. Let's kind of run down the list. We have Captain Kevin, Lenka Mock, Lieutenant Harmon Croy, Wani, Sandro Alamander, and the Saja. So the question I've got for the both of you is the Saja. Are we counting them like as a whole? Are we saying like specific Saja, or do I have like an army of Saja at my command?
If you were to choose the Saja, you would have an army of Saja at your command.
Ooh, wow. You know what? I'm going to pick, frankly, regardless of what the answer was there, I'm going to pick the Saja.
Wow, that things just got interesting. Truly did not see you going with others. I'm so excited to see who Christine picks. But Martin, why'd you pick the Saja for your second character?
If we're talking about, it's hard to know what the specific roles we're trying to get our team filled with. But the Saja as a whole were so fascinating to me. I mean, what a creation from the Walt Disney. And again, I'm not sure if they were created by the Lucasfilm Story Group, and Matt Martin and his team, or were they created by Imagine? I'm not sure who was it that created the Saja. But how do you get Jedi on a ship when you can't have Jedi on the ship?
Right.
It's the most incredibly clever solution to that problem. And I just thought that the mysticism, the lore, one thing that I just love about the Saja is there's multiple of them, and we've seen a relatively wide range of performances for the Saja across our two voyages. I just find their role in that universe captivating, and when you're talking about a team here, we have really the only force sensitive folks on this list. I don't see how that can't be a good thing in however it is that we end up doing our final team versus team here. But to me, the Saja are such an incredibly well thought out creation and just a really creative solution to a big problem that they had. I mean, they can't have a Jedi school on this Starcruiser, so they just have the Saja to fill that role. And that's just, I can't get enough of hearing about them. And just every time you get pulled aside by a Saja, you just hear more about their story and their lore. And I can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the Saja from a mental perspective would be an extremely powerful ally to have on a team. But I also feel like they're going to want to talk it out instead of fighting.
Nice.
So I'm not, again, not knowing where we're going with this. I'm not sure about that.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah. What do you think, Drew?
Well, I think so. I love Rogue One is my favorite of the movies outside the original trilogy, and I don't know how to pronounce. Is it Chirrut?
Chirrut, you had it right.
Yeah. So he's one of the Guardians of the Wills, and that was their kind of mechanism to cheat and have somebody who seemed to be maybe not force sensitive, but force aware or adjacent. I don't know the right way to say it.
And force aligned, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. And so I thought it was interesting that they didn't choose to use the Guardians of the Wills and they came up with the Saja kind of in the same substitute vein that you're talking about. And I am, as just like you, I am as equally interested in the Saja as I am the Guardians of the Wills, just to learn about how these people are carrying on that hokey ancient religion and to be interested in what the Force does and can do. And I think it was, like you said, a brilliant solution and so well implemented on the ship. We've talked at length that before we went on our first voyage, we kind of were afraid about how hokey the lightsaber experience looked from the marketing that Josh D'Amaro and that team did when they were showing it off. It looked kind of, vaguely dumb. But it was anything but. It was a highlight of the trip, and that's 100% due to the actor, the Saja, who was with us during that first experience. He was so good at basically bringing us in and showing us the importance of the Force and how it binds us all together. And the character of the Saja is, I think, the tool that they use to implement that so well.
Well, and on our second voyage, too, we got to spend a lot more time with the Saja outside of our training with the lightsabers, that I think it just emphasized how thought out their group is and how well they all work together. They do have to be in sync, even though they're not standing next to each other whenever they approach people on the ship or whenever they're in training, or, all that piece of it has to be in sync. So even though it's improv to some degree, they're still very well, one mind, as you'd put it.
Yeah, and the other thing that I think is interesting, I couldn't agree more. That second experience, we spoke, like you just said, we spoke directly with Asaja for significantly longer than we did during the first voyage. And something that's interesting is I don't think there was, the two major times we had interactions with Asaja, there was another Saja who joined them, that we'd start off talking to one, and then the other Saja would happen by and see that that person was talking, and kind of like, how you see the police pull over in groups on the side of the road. the two Saja would come up, and you're right, Christine, they were of one mind, and they did speak to us and kind of, relayed story information and kind of were taking what we were feeding them and giving back to us. It was so freaking cool. Hey, guys, can we redo the draft? Because now I want to pick completely differently.
No take-backs.
Nice. Well, Christine, who do you have for your second position in our character draft?
It was a struggle between two, but I am going to go with Lenka Mock.
Lenka Mock, nice.
Yes, sir. She is unequivocally a badass. I mean, she took down a space pirate
And that's not a spoiler. That's from the Halcyon Legacy. We're going to be discussing that at length in a future episode of the podcast.
Yes. So she took down Crimson Jack before they even got on our cruise for the Halcyon. And she's just, it's one of those things where, the second in command almost tends to be the one who's really in command. And that's not a slight against Captain Keevan,
right?
Because Captain Keevan's got enough going on. But Linka Mock is, she would have no problem with any issue that came her way.
Yeah, that you said it perfectly, because Lenka Mock was another one that, cruise director could be such a slight character story-wise. And again, I don't want to get into spoiler territory, but the way that a lot of these characters step up and go beyond their what you expect out of this particular role. And again, we were lucky enough to get the same Lenka Mock performer,
right?
This twice, for both cruises, and we love that performance. And again, no matter who there's performing the roles, we're there for it. We're there to support them. But it is just to be able to see the same performer do this role twice, and I really believe the second time was even better than the first for Lenka. We did to get more Lenka time with Voyage 2, I think. I mean, we got some extra missions with her, but the way that Lenka was a really fun, it's just like an onion that just keeps peeling away layers, and you just keep getting more and more out of, Lenka really is an integral part in this. I loved that surprise.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is turning into a mutual admiration society. I don't mean it to, but Lenka, the performance again, as you mentioned, that second time, there was none of the. We were on Voyage 6 the first time, and obviously the actress, maybe she'd had a chance to do it 2 or 3 times. So we saw her when we went in October. She had the benefit of doing it dozens of times, obviously, and so to see her grow in that character and really kind of make her. I guess the person that we saw, it was really cool to see the difference between the two voyages.
And Lenka's kind of an interesting character. We're trying to keep the spoilers, low into a lot of these characters. Most of these characters, you can't talk about their full arc without talking about where the story goes. But of course, everyone that's been on Starcruiser right now is just nodding their head going, oh yeah, Lenka's a badass.
Excellent choice, Christine. And for my second choice, guys, I'm going to have to pick him and I'm going to take advantage that I get 2 selections in a row, which is not terrible, I will say. But for my second selection, I'm going to choose one Lieutenant Harmon Croy.
I would have taken it if you didn't.
Sure, and Martin, I could have sworn you were going to pick Croy first or second, so I'm stunned that he fell to me, and I'm going to take advantage by taking him off the board.
I would have absolutely loved to have taken Harmon Croy this time.
Sure. Well, and the reason I'll pick him is, and again, this is another performer that we were lucky enough to see the same performance, which was so much fun because, it helped our identity crisis that we were afraid we were going to have when we went on voyage number 2. And that actor, the character of Harmon Croy, has been discussed many times with Nick Tiers and Mike Emke from Wookiee Radio. Lieutenant Croy is kind of the comic relief character. He's also the one that a lot of the kids join. Kids enjoy the chance to be naughty and evil when they play on the ship. So Lieutenant Croy is frequently followed by a gaggle of fascists in training, if you will. And that actor that we saw did such a spectacular job of working with the kids, of working with the parents of the kids. This isn't a spoiler, but I do have to say that Lieutenant Croy at one point said, "And where is Andrew's father? I'd like to talk about Andrew's father." Andrew's father raised his hand. He said, "The reason I'd like to see you is because I didn't see you the entire voyage. I just saw Andrew," or whatever the kid's name was.
The kid was like tied to Croy the entire voyage.
Yes, it was so good. So just for that actor, we didn't get to experience a lot of Lieutenant Croy. I know Christine and Martin, you guys did on voyage number 1, but the reason I'm picking him is just because the actor did such an amazing job, and I can't wait for voyage number 3 where we get to know Croy a lot better.
I can't wait. I mean, it's funny, I'm hoping that we get the same performer just because we've seen what he can do. But again, it's fun. Every single time we've gotten a different performer in a role, it's been outstanding in a completely different way. So we can't lose, but am I secretly hoping that we get the, Harmon Croy trick? Because this time I'm going in. It's no secret. I'm going to go burn down the Halcyon. I'm going to be so evil. I just can't wait to be riffing with Croy in that manner. It's just, but what a fine line that character is. He's still got to be lovable. He's still got to be charming. You have to love to hate this guy.
Right.
And this performer, and again, I'm sure all of them, but we've seen the same performer twice in this role. How quick he is, how witty he is, because people are constantly throwing static at this guy, and he just knows how to absorb it and deflect it right back so perfectly.
It's like being a stand-up comedian, and you have to manage the hecklers in the crowd.
Yep.
But this guy's got nothing but hecklers.
Sure.
It's amazing, and he just knows how to just be so gloriously wrong. And again, what's nice about him is, you could argue that he's a bad guy. Is he evil? I think they're really smart with how they play this. He's a bad guy, but is he an evil guy? I don't get that. I don't think with kids on board, you don't want, crazy, unhinged villain. I think he fits the role so perfectly. And to know, like, what we refer to on the show as the Joe Rody Wraith, to know that he's starting to play Croy, to me, that's fascinating. I'm actually really kind of interested in what, the Joe Rody Wraith would do with Harmon Croy.
Well, I'm sure he'd do a spectacular job. And one thing you said just reminds me, I think we made this joke very early on in this podcast series, but as we learn in Wreck-It Ralph, just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean that you're a bad guy.
No, well, I think, it's been fascinating that they have had some of the characters that have crossed over to different roles. We've seen that one of the Saja now is playing a Croy type character whenever they go on to Batu. And to look at him, you'd be like, no, he's way too nice a guy. Like, of course, Saja playing, and then he gets in that costume and you're like, oh, okay, yeah. And it's just a matter of their talent. It's, they can easily slip, into these different roles and very quickly make you believe that he is part of the First Order. It's fantastic.
The power of acting.
Yes.
Yeah, and the final reason I chose Lieutenant Croy, just to talk about him for one more second, is I think that any story is only as good as its antagonist or its villains. And so to have somebody who we can play against, and sure, the story of that's on board the Galactic Starcruiser, again without any spoilers, does tend a bit towards melodrama, certainly. But again, that character does such a good job, and again, no spoilers, the arc of the character, we see some change, we see some growth for that person. And one thing that we saw during our first voyage was there's kind of a respect that Croy showed for Kevin, that Kevin didn't bring anything back to Croy, of course. But again,
right.
Just for that actor to make me go, oh, they don't just plot how they're going to kill babies in space. They like any good villain, they think they're right, and they think they're the good guys, and we see that in Croy, just like we would with any good antagonist in any story.
Well, something else that I saw in Voyage 2 that for whatever reason, it just kind of, maybe it went over my head. Maybe I just wasn't there when it was ever a thing. But this, crush that Croy has on Gaia, I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
And how they play that is hilarious. It's just a kind of a fun, twist, and to mix these characters up in these really unusual combinations and scenarios and motivations. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Well, with my third pick, since I'm coming back around, I'm genuinely torn between the three that are left. So just to revisit round two, Martin took the first pick of round two with the Saja. Christine followed that up with Lenka Mach, and then I took Lieutenant Croy as my second selection. Now we're coming back around for the three, and the three that we have remaining are Captain Kevin, Sandro, and Wani. And there are fabulous reasons to pick any of these three, but I am going to go ahead and pick Sandro for my character, for number 3. And even as I say it, I'm stunned that I picked that character. But let me tell you why. We got to see two different performances of Sandro. They were both spectacular musicians. They were able to play their stringed instruments, but in addition to being able to play those guitar-like instruments, they could also sing. I have my personal preference of the first performer we saw, Sandro. He was so freaking good. Christine and I have talked about this at length, but just for new listeners, on voyage number 1 back in March, when we were first on the ship and just after muster, and we'd had our CSL. Actually, Christine, was it before we went to our pictures, or was it after we came back?
Yeah, it was before.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. So just before we went off to, so this was before the actual muster. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This was before. Yeah. Before the captain even came and introduced themselves. We were in the crowd in the atrium getting ready for the muster, and I don't know if he came to me first or if he came to you. I don't remember, Christine. But the character walked up, and I saw that he had a mic, so I knew he was one of the characters. But he just started talking and told his story, again, as we say, no spoilers yet, and he was so good, just like everybody else. And then the second cruise, I didn't get to directly interact with him nearly as much as I did the first one, but he interacted with Zachary, my son, quite a bit, and also was so good. Zachary did a good job of giving and taking. Zachary and Sandro were involved in a very early sabacc game where Zachary was teaching Sandro the ropes of gambling as perhaps a way for him to earn some money. And the stories that Zachary told about that actor just made me just think that Sandro is just fabulous. What do you think about Sandro, Martin?
Well, I'm going to say out of universe, just as a Starcruiser attendee and fan, watching Zach interact with this Sandro performer on the second cruise was awesome.
That was so much fun.
It's so fun to watch just Zach. I was kind of worried. I wasn't sure if Zach was really in it to win it for voyage number 2.
Me neither.
He wasn't in the planning as much as, the first time. And we knew he was going to have fun, but the moment Sandro kind of came in and Zach saw his moment, he was there. He was in it. He was present, and that was freaking awesome. We were sitting in the Sublight Lounge in that booth, just watching your son kill it on the sabacc table with Sandro, and that was really freaking awesome to watch that. Watching him was freaking great.
Wait, so I was watching, you were watching me watch him. Who was watching you watch me watch him?
That was probably me. No.
You've got me. Who's got you?
Right. and I will say that, again, I think that was the spark that made the voyage number 2 what it was for Zach, was seeing somebody give him energy and then Zachary give that energy back and just have that experience happen. And again, that's a credit to the character that they created for sure.
And think of all the different disciplines that these performers need. Is they need to be able to walk in and read the room, read each individual passenger. What does that passenger need right now? How do they best accommodate what they need, what they're looking for? And he was able to just read Zach and put forth a scenario that Zach responded to. They're so good at just bringing people out and working them into something that they may not realize they wanted or were ready for even.
Right, sure.
Even after 2 voyages and talking about it so long and talking to other people who have gone on cruises, it's still just mind-blowing how good these actors are. And it's not just they're good actors, because there are plenty of good actors that are in movies and on TV and whatever else. But those people don't have to interact with 200 to 300 different people every 2 days and try to work a crowd and figure out who and how the interactions need to take place while moving the story along. It's still just so fascinating to me. I would love to sit down with somebody and be like, so how do you do it?
Right. What's your secret? Well, yeah. And
what's
just
your secret?
Just to wrap up Sandro, again, that first cruise, since he was the first character that we both talked to, Christine, when we started talking with Sandro and started giving back and forth and talking that first voyage, that's where I first went, oh my gosh, if it's going to be like this is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I didn't even notice the microphone. Like when he first started talking to me, I was like, oh, this is just a nice person on the ship. And, they're just asking like, why are you here? And, that's cool. There's, it's a small group of us. That makes sense that people would be friendly. And then after a few minutes of conversation, I was like, oh, no, he is part of the ship. I was like, wow.
That was so much fun to be there and see you realize that this was the ship. This was the character. This was the story. It was so much fun to watch that realization dawn on you when you're mid-conversation. It was visible, and you just loved that so much.
It was just a very poignant introduction to what the rest of the next 2 days were going to be.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Like it relaxed, calm, just conversation. Just join us on this journey.
and if we're going to talk about Sandro just as a character, for the purposes of the draft, again, I have yet to kind of really figure out exactly what's the standard by which we're judging each team.
Sure.
But Sandro, he is there to get things done, man. He has a goal in mind, and he will stop at nothing to do that. So to me, he's a good character to have in a draft.
Well, cool. Well, speaking of the draft, why don't we hear from you, Christine? Who are you wrapping up? We have a couple of excellent characters on the board, obviously. Who are you going to remove so that Martin can't pick them?
I know. I'm kind of freaking out.
Yeah, I'm looking at your team as you're weighing your decision, Christine. You have an opportunity to make a really solid team of a certain kind. And
I know.
You also have the opportunity to pick. This is fun.
I know. I'm stressing out now, man.
Isn't it weird how hard it is, for the purposes of what we're doing today, to separate the character from the performers? Like, I feel like I'm betraying performers by the order in which I'm selecting these. I'm having a conniption here. Like, oh my God, they're gonna be so mad I didn't pick this character.
Well, yeah,
we love you all.
Well, and before
we love you all.
Of course, and before Christine goes, to that point, just obviously someone's going to be chosen last. That doesn't mean they're our least favorite character. It just means that either we want to pick somebody else for the team that we're building. Again, Christine, you have a chance to build a theme here, which is really freaking, did not see that coming in this. And but also, so of course we love all the characters, and they all bring something to the team. But Christine, you're going to make somebody last. So who are you picking up?
My stomach hurts. I can't even think.
The tension here is exciting.
I know. It truly hurts my stomach. Like, I don't know. I just don't know. Like, there's reasons for both, and I just don't know.
You'll buy the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Right.
I got it.
Who are you
I've
choosing?
seen you make major life decisions much quicker than this.
I know. We have bought a car, a timeshare, and a house a lot faster than this. My number 3 is going to be Wani. There's a couple of reasons. So I picked Wani because I think that she is well-traveled, that she's going to have a wide variety of connections outside of the Halcyon. The fact that she can speak Huttese, I'm guessing she probably speaks more than one language. And I wanted to make it difficult for Gaia.
Wani's a solid pick. I mean, she definitely has a sense of style.
Yeah.
She commands attention. Yeah, awesome. I mean, from a performance standpoint, incredible. Like, Wani.
Oh my gosh.
How this performer, I mean, you stand back, you can't do this when you're on the ship because you're just captivated by the reality of this character. But when you sit there afterwards and you're watching videos and you like stop and really think about how confining that mask and prosthetics and whatnot are on this performer, and they just kill it. Like,
they do.
How much time does it take to get in and out of that? They're just amazing. I mean, the impact of that character, stunning. But I think your character reasons for putting her on a team, that's solid.
Oh yeah, and as far as the character, I mean, so there's a variety of reasons. Again, we're leaving this draft fairly open-ended on how we're going to explain and try to win listeners to our side to vote for us when we have the outcome. But the performance of that person, I don't know how many people play Wani. There's obviously got to be at least a couple. We don't know if we had the same Wani
Right.
in both of our cruises. But if it's not the same performer, the continuity where it seems like the same person, even though it's obviously it could be two different people, it could be that there are two different people playing it on each voyage because 8 hours or whatever shift those characters have in that mass, where they're 45 minutes on or 20 minutes off. I don't know the rotation, but just so good. And the thing that I love most is no matter, since the character speaks in Huttese only, just like speaking with Chewie, you're kind of making up your own side of the conversation as it
Right.
goes, and you kind of can play with Wani. When Wani responds and maybe sounds sarcastic, you could take a sarcastic tone, and then Wani says it back.
And the performers are so good in doing exactly that. I mean, whatever you throw at the Wani performer, they're going to respond to in some really clever way.
Right.
Because, that's one of the reasons why I really love Wani, is because you can make any conversation whatever you want it to be. And that's kind of a liberating, fun thing to play with.
Yeah.
When other people are around, everyone gets to kind of take the conversation their own direction, their own way. But great pick.
Yeah, that was good. And I wrestled for mine. I was wrestling back and forth with, and I would have chosen Wani for me personally, mainly because of the quality of the experience, both the acting, the costume, the technology that's in place. I don't think I ever heard Wani say the same thing. Now that I'm playing it back in my head, and I really want to look at this next time I go, with the stormtroopers, when they're talking, I can pick up some repetitive nature of their conversations. I don't know how many sayings they have recorded through, whatever they say with whatever their technology is. But Wani probably has a limited subset of things too, but it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like there's something brand new coming out of their mouth every single time.
Well, I will say selfishly, although Wani's a great pick, I was really hoping that you were going to pick Wani, because I really wanted Captain Kevin here.
Nice.
Badly, I wanted Captain Kevin. I think that rounds out my team in a spectacular fashion.
Why were you hoping for Captain Kevin?
Captain Kevin, again, I mean, this person, she is experienced. She is cool under pressure. She takes no poodoo from anybody. And that's just the character. I mean, the performance, we had two different Kevin performers across our two voyages. And it's funny that we had Captain Kevin is still, after two voyages, the character that I think I've interacted with the least. And what's funny is I actually went into our second voyage really intending to seek Captain Kevin out and really make her an integral part of my storyline this time, and just things didn't play out that I just couldn't connect, storyline wise. It's just funny. Every opportunity pulls you a different way,
right? And
for whatever reason, I still want to go and connect closely with Captain Kevin. I think there's more to that storyline than I've seen. I'm probably not going to get a lot of it the next time going full First Order, but
sure.
Again, I still am kind of up in the air. I mean, is there any kind of story twists in my character for Voyage 3? We'll see. But I'm thrilled to have Captain Kevin on my team. I mean, she's a leader. She's experienced. She's the Halcyon's where she started her career, but we know it's not been her only ship. So she's a get it done, take charge, valuable asset to my team.
Yeah, it's good. And when I was trying to wrestle between the last three, the reason I would have chosen Captain Kevin is because I think I had kind of the interactions on Voyage 2 that you wanted to have, Martin. Not that I became close with Captain Kevin, perhaps like we did with Wraith or Sammy or Lenka, but I was lucky enough to have a couple of special missions with Captain Kevin and got to see the performer up close, got to recognize the character a little bit more than we had on our first voyage. I saw different sides of the character from that second performance, and thought that that was super interesting as well. Her interactions with Wraith during a couple of missions that we won't talk about in detail at the moment, she was somebody who obviously commanded respect and had a certain level of authority over the other characters. She carried that well. Christine, what do you think about Captain Keevan?
Well, again, obvious from my struggle to decide between Captain Keevan and Wani. I absolutely love the captain. I think it's very quickly during muster, you realize exactly who you're dealing with. I mean, she, like you said, she demands respect, and it's not through what she says, it's through how she says it and what she does.
Yeah. Yeah, and the second actress that we saw playing the performance was actually fairly diminutive. Not that she was, like 5'1", but maybe she was 5'4", but she was so much taller than she was in real life. You forgot that she was maybe that height. It was just interesting to see kind of the authority that came out from just the way she carried herself and just the way she interacted with the people on the ship. That was pretty cool.
Well, and that's just kind of a Star Wars trait, too. I mean, size matters not.
Well, Captain Keevan, again, I really want to go on a voyage where we get more of her. I had a really fun, set of moments with our captain the first voyage. Drew, you definitely had some amazing story moments with the captain on voyage 2. But this is a character that myself, I really want to see more of Lieutenant Harmon Croy and Captain Keevan on future voyages.
Well, cool. Well, now for this part of the draft, guys, let's go ahead and take a step back just to go in draft order. The three that I selected are Wraith, Lieutenant Croy, and Sandro. Christine, you took Sammy, Lenka Mock, and Wani. And Martin, you chose Gaia, the Saja, and Captain Keevan. So during this, what we want to do is we're going to put up a poll on Instagram, and we would like to hear from our listeners, who do you think chose the best set of 3 characters? And now, Martin, Christine, myself, it's our job to convince our listeners, and why don't we start with you, Martin? Why are the 3 characters you chose the best of the draft?
Well, I would argue that I have got the 3 powerhouses of this, the 9 available characters. Gaia, the Saja, and Captain Keevan, all powerful for different reasons, but I would argue that these are the powerhouses available. Gaia commands respect. She's known. She is a superstar for a reason. She gets things done. She has such incredible presence. The Saja, come on, they're Force sensitive. I mean, even if they're not Jedi, they have the ability to channel the Force. That's a huge thing. They have a level of commitment that is super strong to their beliefs. Captain Keevan, born to be a captain, commands every situation she's in, never loses her cool, gets the job done. I couldn't be happier with my set of 3. I mean, this is truly the 3 powerhouses to contend with. I think I got you both beat.
Christine, how about you?
That's cute, but if you go through my team, these are all people that you may not look twice at, which makes them even more powerful than those who exude their power so blatantly.
Nice.
So, I mean, Sammy is one that his heart and his soul is in every action that he takes. He is always one to put himself second and put the cause first. He works through his fears, through his angst, through any concerns he may have. He is focused on the outcome as opposed to what could possibly happen to him. Lenka has proven herself again with the Crimson Jack fight prior to our voyage on the Halcyon. Her responses to Croy when he first gets on the ship, she has no fear of him. She has no concern about what he could do. She's there for one reason and one reason alone, and she's not backing down from it. And with Wani, I think she's someone that there's a lot more depth in there that we're not seeing. I mean, anybody that has a musical type background, to me, again, is going to have the passion and the heart to do whatever it takes to protect those around her. She's creative, which means that she's going to be able to maneuver around obstacles that come in her way. She can speak Huttese, and she at least understands our accent. She likely knows other languages. And as a Rhodian, she's probably seen an awful lot more than what we have. And her experiences are going to be vital to the team.
Well, to wrap up, I have to agree 100% with both of you. Martin, I do think you have the power. Christine, you definitely have the heart. But what I've got on my team is the personality. Wraith, Lieutenant Croy, and Sandro are characters that the whole crew can fall in love with at different parts of the voyage. We've gone on extensive record about what Wraith means to us as a character, and not only because of the spoilerific reasons that we won't talk about here, but also because of the way that both actors reached out and made personal connections not only with us, but 200 other people on the ship. Just incredible. And again, that's a testament to both the actors, but I think it's the character also that everyone loves a scoundrel, and that makes him a lot of fun. Lieutenant Croy, we might not all love him, but as Martin said, we all love to hate him, and he does have some zingers. He gave back every single time. I don't think there was one moment where somebody gave a zinger his way that he didn't bat back to them, 10 times more powerfully. It was so much fun to see the performer and just great to see the character. And again, without the spoilers, the arc that the character go through is actually pretty interesting on the ship. And then to bring it home with Sandro does have an arc on the ship. And the story that he tells and that he's involved with, the character starts in one place and ends in quite another, and we get to see some growth, and we also get to see some amazing musical talent and something interesting from that character. So again, just to wrap up, Martin, you got the power, Christine, you got the heart, but man, the personality's on my team.
So now I got Sandro's ending song in my head right now, and that's going to be there for the rest of the day. I love that song.
Well, cool. Well, Christine, we're going to go put something up out there on Instagram. We're going to research ways to do polls because I've seen a variety of different ways to do this. If people wanted to find us on the web on Instagram, where would they do that at?
On Instagram, you're going to find us at Heroes of the Halcyon. You can always email us at heroesofthehalcyon@gmail.com. Currently, you can still find us on Twitter at Halcyon_heroes. And of course, our website at heroesofthehalcyon.com and YouTube at Heroes of the Halcyon.
So for those of you out listening, go ahead and just reach out to us in the next week or so. You guys can decide for yourselves how to rank the teams. Did we sway you? Do you agree with us? Let's hear what you think.
Well, I do want to give out one special shout out to kind of close out the show. We receive viewer emails and viewer messages all the time. And there was a listener that wrote us a really detailed email about their experience on the Halcyon and how we prepared them for it. Christine, can you tell us a little bit about this particular viewer's email?
Yes, the email was fantastic. And again, when you guys share with us, it just re-emphasizes all the reasons why we're doing this. So the email came from David, who was quick to point out that, he's not somebody who's ever LARPed before. He was comfortable with role playing, but, this wasn't necessarily something that he does on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. But he just got back from his cruise just a week ago and just absolutely loved every piece of it. He and his wife went. He also mentioned that his wife, who is far more reserved, than him, and at the beginning of their voyage, really found her footing in the lightsaber training with the Saja. So there's always a way for you to find your place in these stories, no matter what your background is before you get on the ship. So we love these stories, guys. Please keep sending them.
I just love the way his email starts. Literally, it starts, "Now I get it." And that says exactly why we're doing what we're doing. We love hearing that you've got the same deep connection to the Galactic Starcruiser experience that we do. And just like he wrote, "Now I get it." Well, what a fun episode. And it is always fun to shoot the hoodoo with all the Galactic Starcruiser superfans out there. So until next episode, it's our honor. Let's raise our glasses with the Halcyon toast.
Tabuite!